I wanted to come in and say hello with my face, and I wanted to share my experience with, well, I guess my spiritual um, stepping stones that led me to Mary Magdalene. So I have these notes here because I need the notes. But before we get to that, so when I was little, or my mom told me about something when I was little about one time we went to a friend of hers house. It was the first time we'd been there, or the first time I had been there, anyways. First time we had been there, and I walked into this room. This is her telling me this. I walked into this room, and I walked to this corner, and I said, "Where did all the dolls go?" And the woman whose house it was, she was like, "Oh, I had to pack them all up and put them into storage or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay," and just kind of did my thing. But she turned and looked at my mom and was like, "About a week ago, for years, there were all kinds of dolls in that corner. Like it was her mother's collection. I can't remember the details of that part, but anyways, the message was is that I had this intuitive ability when I was younger, and there are moments that I can remember throughout my childhood that I started to push it away or doubt it. Sometimes it was saying something that I thought and then having somebody deny it, or um, or not wanting what I thought to be true, like that, like, oh, I must be wrong, or the self doubt, right? When I was 20, or maybe I was still only 19. No, I was 20. I lived in Vancouver, and I I remember this instance, and I feel like it was purposely set up, these details, so that I would remember forever. Okay, so it was like 2:30 in the morning. It was after, or probably 1:30 in the morning, because I tended to want to leave just before the end of the like last call or whatever, and they turn on all the lights. And I was living with my friend Liz at the time and her dad on Hastings Street, or just off of Hastings. And so I was waiting downtown for the bus, and I was standing at the bus stop, probably smoking, because that's what we did back in the day. We just stood around and smoked cigarettes on the side of the street. And and I saw this man across the street, big beard, and he had this giant sack, like a garbage bag, over his back. And I was just like, I think I made some reference to him being like Santa or whatever, but he was carrying two long stem roses, a red one and a white one, which, stood out. Okay. Like I was like, what's going on over there? Right. And I see him kind of catch glimpse or whatever, and he crosses the street and walks over, and he kind of comes by me, and he's just like, "Hey, can I bum a smoke, or can I have a cigarette or whatever?" And I was like, "Sure, sure." So I gave him a smoke, and he starts walking away, and I'm like, "Oh, do you need a light?" And he stopped, thought for a second, turned around, came back. I lit his cigarette for him with some matches, and he was like, "Thank you." And then he turned around and he started walking away, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to keep this pack of matches?" And he stopped for a second and he thought about it, and then he turned around and he came back, or he turned around and he's just like, "No, no, I'm good." And I'm like, "You can never have too many matches." And he thought about that for a second. Then he was like, "Okay." And he comes back. And so I gave him the matches, and he's like, "Thank you." And he turns around and walks away, and I settle back into my smoke. And then he comes back and he's like, "I know chivalry is dead, but here." And he gives me a white long stem rose, the white one. And I am so like, "Oh, this rose. Oh my goodness. It's 1:30 in the morning. I'm standing by myself at a freaking bus stop, and this white rose." And I remember I had this like crushed velvet, royal blue not cardigan, like a jacket, like a, oh, what do you call, blazer, not a blazer. Oh, I can't think of the word right now. You're probably trying to guess for me, and I can't hear you. But thanks for the help. Blazer? Did I say blazer? Yeah, maybe it's a blazer. Now I'm doubting that that's the word. But anyways, royal blue, and I think I had my blue, not my blue, my brown bell bottom, soft corduroy pants that I was wearing back in the day. But anyways, I was really kind of caught up in the textures of the white and the blue and the brown, and just the green of the stem and everything. So I kind of was like in that mode. And then the bus came, and I came and got onto the bus. So on the bus, there's the driver, and then there's the seats that face each other, and then they start facing forward, right? So I sat in the first facing forward seat on the left. So the driver is kitty corner to me, right? And I'm sitting there by the window, and I'm just like, oh, like looking at this rose. And we go along, and there were probably about 4 or 5 people in the back somewhere, and then there was this woman. We picked her up next, and she sat in one of the forward-facing ones right behind the driver, so she's also kitty corner to me. And then we stopped at this stop, and this person gets up, and they stand on the front there where they're paying their their tab, no, their coins. They're dropping their coins in by the driver, and I see him do this like sway and scan, and it was like this subtle, but I could feel it. He clocked me. Okay. And he immediately looked away, but I could tell, I could feel, I don't know what was going on, but that he was going to come sit beside me. And sure enough, he's not looking at me, he's looking everywhere but me. And he starts walking down the bus aisle and then swoop, sits down and sits right down beside me. And he's kind of like this, right? Over towards me. And I'm leaning like this towards the window. And he's like, Hakuna Matata, or whatever he said. I can't remember what he said. And he's like, that means hello in whatever language he was speaking. And I just was like, hello. And then turned back to look at the window. And then he's kind of like, I could feel him assessing me for a minute. And then he kind of looks away and he's talking away to the other people or himself or something like that. But he's still kind of hovering over, right? And almost touching me. And so I don't know why. Okay. But I was like, you're kind of in my space. And I turned back around. And he immediately was like, oh, like, oops, sorry, right? But then, so this is where it happened. Okay, so then he's like, he moves out of the way, and I'm like this, and all of a sudden I feel this energy coming up right from my heart. My heart starts to palpitate strangely, and I could feel this. I don't even know how to describe it other than energy coming up into my throat. And at the same time that this is moving up, he says, let me know the next time I get in your fucking way. And he screams it right into my face. And this energy that I'm feeling, right, as he's crescendoing, is that the right word? Rising in his response, it's like coming up here. And now it's all like, bang, 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 bang. And internally, all of this stuff is going on. But externally, I am just like I'm a statue. Okay. And so I turn, I just say, it's not a big deal. And turn back. And meanwhile, I'm like, in my mind, I'm pushing this energy down. I'm like, get down there, right? And he's just like transfixed. He's just staring at the side of my head, the back of my head, whatever, and trying to figure out what the heck to do, I guess. And I got it down to about here, and I felt him kind of just like lean back a bit in his chair. And then I pushed it down to about here, and then he turned and he was like, what bus am I on anyway? And the bus driver had pulled over and he got off the bus. Okay. And then the whole bus just went like this as soon as the door shut. Everybody was like, what the heck? Okay. So as all this is happening, also, I'm aware that the driver is watching through his rearview mirror at what's going on. And I'm pretty sure nobody pulled a thing. The driver just pulled over to be like, hey, we need to, I don't know. He was already pulled over. And then the woman that was sitting across from me, I felt, heard, or knew that if this guy made a move on me physically, she had my back. Like she was ready to jump in and be like, let's do this, sister, kind of thing. Which was crazy. There was just so much that was going on in this period, right? It was just like, but the biggest takeaway was I was somehow influencing his energy. Feeling it and transmuting it is what I'm thinking now, just from experience and where I'm at today. But I felt like at that time that I had some sort of superpower. I left that bus feeling like I had a superpower, and my superpower was something to do with energy. And I carried that with me for the longest time, not knowing what to do with it. And I had like instances periodically through my life where I had some sort of tactile influence that, I always just thought that it was something that was my own thing, like that only I knew about it. It's not something that you talk about, like, oh, I got this superpower, and people are like, show me. And then you're like, I can't. Right. But I did have one person witness it. And which was kind of a cool situation. Anyways, long story short, this person, we kind of met through a series of mini dates in one kind of weekend, working at a same event. And then we went in the evening and set off some fireworks in between two lodges. Like one, it was the Tainamara, and then there was some sort of other hotel. Anyways, we found this little midway point and we were like, oh, this is the perfect place. It's far enough away from everything. And so we set off this firework and it ended up being like a Roman candle or something. So it just like shot off like 8 in a row and they're really loud and bright. And we're just having a great time. But the security guard from the hotel comes running over and he's just like, you can't do that here. What the heck? You know, like what the? And I'm just like, oh, it's all good. We won't do it again. This is the only one we have. We won't do it again. It's all going to be okay, or something like that. I said like 3 kind of phrases, reassuring kind of phrases, but I also touched him on the shoulder as I said it. And then the guy turned around. He's just like, okay, you're not going to do it again. It's all good. You're going now. Okay. And he turned around and like, he basically repeated the things that I had told him. Right. And then the guy that I was with, he turned around. He was just like, you just Jedi mind tricked that guy. And I was like, you saw that? Anyways. So there was that instance. And then there was another time where I had an out of body experience, and it was like I was on mushrooms, so there was like a hallucinogen involved, but it was very real. So I was with my friend Liz again, and we were 19. So this was before, actually, that was before that time, and we had just had this like massive laugh attack by the river, and we were wandering up this long road. And, you know, you could see all the way up this road with all the lights, right? The street lamps and stuff, because it's dark. And all of a sudden this dog jumps out in front of us and starts like barking. And I popped out of my body and was like floating about, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet above us. And in that split second, I knew that the dog was reacting to our energy, because it was like, what the heck is going on with you people, right? And I also had stepped out in front of Liz because I knew she had like this fear of wolves or whatever, and this dog was about, you know, well, it was a little wolf, but it was still, you know, a decent size, a mid-sized dog, and the baring of the teeth and stuff like that. And then suddenly there was this person that was kind of behind the dog walking towards us, and which we didn't see that guy. I don't know where they came from, but I popped back down in that split second of like taking all the information in, popped back into my body, and immediately was like, it's okay. And like tried to change my energy, right, to calm this dog down. And then saw the opportunity that as this person came up behind the dog got distracted and was like, what was that, right? And in that moment, I like grabbed Liz and we went around the other way. So we kind of did this scooch around this dog. And so the dog was distracted by this other person, and then turned back and we were gone. And then he was kind of like, oh, okay. And then went back into his yard. So out of body experience, that was this sight and this knowing while in that position was instantaneously. Like I gathered so much data in that instant and then back in. Anyways, so there was that time. Okay, so now fast forward, having many, many things leading me to spirituality, unmasking, going back, finding out ADHD, right, autism and ADHD, and them canceling each other out, and just being super sensitive to light and sound and energy and feelings, and not realizing that I get overwhelmed in crowded areas because I am energetically tapping into everybody that's there, right? Like as a survival method, with having a dysregulated environment, there's like this need, like an empathy, where you put your empathy out to read the room and feel what you need to do to survive the environment, right? And we unconsciously do this as a means of survival. And by we, I'm talking to the people who resonate with that, who feel like, oh, that's what's happening when I go into an environment and I'm hyper aware of every single thing that's going on. It's exhausting. And then my processing speed too. You know, I used to think that I have a slow processing because there's a lot of times that things will happen and then it'll take me like sometimes up to 2 days later before I'm like, wait a second, that thing that happened, that thing that was said, that, you know, and but it's not slow processing. It's because there's so much processing going on, because there's so much data being imported or absorbed, that it's just taking a while to get to that part of the consumption. So anyways, I have been tapping back in, trying to reconnect with my intuition. And so, and recognizing that I used to have a very strong intuition, and that I do have a very strong intuition. I just lost my faith in it, lost my trust in it. And so I started doing tarot readings online for the collective, kind of for anybody who's kind of drawn to them, who resonates with the messages and stuff like that. But it was mostly about me connecting in with my intuition and my inner knowing, and also it ended up connecting me with my like higher self and my spirit guides, and um, all kinds of things on the healing journey, right? On this journey back to self, back to trusting self. And so I kind of kept it to myself for a long time because I didn't want to have the algorithm be affected by, I guess I was just trying to control things. And I was also trying to um, test myself, maybe, or I don't know what it is, but I've done 130 something readings, almost 140, and I'm finally ready to just put them out there. I typically, when it comes to online tarot readings for the collective, it's meant to be messages for those who are drawn to the readings for whatever reason, either the image or the title, something that makes you go, oh, what's this one about, right? And that usually indicates that's your intuition leading you towards a message that's for you within the reading, right? But because it's for the collective, it's not necessarily the whole reading is yours, right? It could just be um, messages that make you think of something, that leads you to, that inspires you, even if it's like, I don't resonate with that, I resonate with this. Well, now you've just confirmed something for yourself, right? So messages can happen and look very different. So it's all about what resonates with you, and what doesn't, just leave it. Just leave it for somebody else. That's obviously not part of your message, right? And so yeah, if you feel called to check it out. I also started this YouTube channel, and as a way of trying to get myself out there more, because I had this kind of resistance towards being seen. I can mask. I'm high masking. I know I can mask when I have to, right, to go out into public and whatever. But and to do the things, and I can be pleasant. I can be helpful. I can do all those things. But it's extremely exhausting, and there are so many times where I inadvertently don't interact or respond or acknowledge somebody along the way, and I don't notice until like 2 days later when I'm processing everything, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, that person was totally talking to me, and I just turned around and walked away because I got distracted. And now they're going to think this, that, and the other thing of me, and there's nothing I can do about it because it's been 2 days later. Like, and this is the inner processings that happen to all of us, and maybe not all, but quite a few people. And that's not it. Even if it's just one other person out there, it's still valid, right? And this is what I'm learning. Like, part of the masking thing is to try to fit in with the majority. And I have finally reached a stage in my life where I am no longer trying to do that. Like, even me trying to, everything that you've seen of me is me trying to be normal. And as you can probably tell, it's not, because I rebel against my attempts. It's a whole thing. Okay. It's the autism and the ADHD battling each other inside my brain. Okay. On a regular basis. And so, but the thing is, instead of me just being authentically me, it's me trying to be something else, me rebelling against that. And then this other weird hybrid version of myself is representative, instead of just avoiding or not bothering all that and just being me. Right. So, so yeah, I'd love to see if you want to join in on the journey, a journey towards self and healing and discovery. And yeah, the other thing that I learned from doing the healing work and going within and connecting with ancestry and inner guides and stuff like that is that it's a spiritual journey. It's a spiritual journey, and it's very solitary. It's only, I mean, you can join with other people who are also going through a journey, but the journey itself is your own. I mean, you could be arm in arm with somebody and you both are going through a journey together, but it's still it's very personal. And so yeah, it can be lonely and lonely at times, and having a community, having other people, having an example of somebody who's doing it, all these things are really empowering, especially when you're in the dredges, when you're in the trenches, when you're in the mud and you're covered and you're like, why? And then you see somebody standing over there being like, it's okay, I was there, but eventually you'll be up here out of there and it's great, right? And if you're not there yet, then this channel's not going to be for you, because that can be annoying also when you're in there and somebody's like, it's all good. And they're like, no, because that's where you're at. But that's okay. Anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to share my channel with you, share a little bit of like the sliver, a fraction, a momentarily glimpse of part of my journey towards spirituality, and also, let you in on my tarot readings in case they are helpful for you as well on your journey, wherever you're at. Okay. Oh my goodness, I totally forgot about my notes. And Mary Magdalene. But to keep this on the shorter side, I have been felt really drawn to the masculine or the feminine energy. And I feel like Mary Magdalene was an embodiment of the feminine aspect. And I feel like now there is a resurgence, a re-leveling of and balancing of the masculine and feminine energies. And so this, I think, is why I felt such a strong connection to the witch burnings and people being dismissed and betrayed as witches and burnt at the stake and um, battered, broken, and bruised. And really, it was like empowered women who were in touch with their intuition, who were in touch with the cyclical um, movements and energies of the earth, and in touch with that and the cycles and the honoring of life and death and processes and archetypes and all this kind of stuff. And I've been feeling that reignite within my own spirit. Um, and so my pathway towards Mary Magdalene has been it just makes sense. It's just been making more and more sense to me. And just as a testament or an example of some of the ways that your intuition and your spirit team, your divine spirit team, those in unseen realms that help you towards your highest and greatest timeline, like ascended masters and ancestors and archangels, um, they speak through your higher self. Your sorry, I've got cat fluff all over. They speak through you through signs and synchronicities. They're the small nudges. They're never trying to force anything upon you. They're never trying to argue something with you. They are always just giving subtle little suggestions. And your job, our job, is to quiet the mind, to clear the space, to maintain a receiving frequency so that we can discern and see and find and hear all those things, right? So as you may or may not know, I have been face painting for 18 years now. And the woman who I started with, Kathy, who I've known for 18 years because we met when I started face painting. I waited in a lineup for her with my son to get his face painted. And I never wait in lines. I hate lines. But every time we were about to walk away, this kid with their face painted would walk by, and it was sparkly and bright and unlike any sort of face painting we've ever seen in our lives. And so we were like, okay, we'll just wait a little longer. And anyways, I just had this huge push, pull, force, like, this woman needs your help. And so, I didn't listen to that right then and there, and kind of kept it to myself. And we went through and got our faces painted, or well, Lucas had got his face painted. And then I was at a birthday party later on, and they had hired a face painter, and it was her. And so I was like, oh, this is my opportunity. So she was packing up at the end of the birthday party, and so she was by herself. And so I went over there, and I'm like, I think you need me. And she was like, I am in at the right place in my business where I think I do need to bring in somebody else. And let's like come over, bring your artwork, and I'll give you some paints, and we'll see what happens, right? And 18 years later. Okay, so I worked with her for 9 years, and I've been on my own for 9 years now. And actually, out of just loyalty, I never sought out face painting. I never advertised. I never call anybody up to let them know that I'm face painting. I never went for any gigs. And actually almost fully retired in 2020. Just was going to let it go completely. But, after so many years, people just started coming to me, and I can't seem to get away from it. But anyways, Kathy and I will still, communicate and go back and forth and share events if we can or can't do them or whatever. And she had a bit of an accident, and she tore her rotator cuff. And so needed somebody to take over one of her gigs, which I took over. And it ended up getting me to a place where I was suddenly in a chapel by myself. And I'm really being made aware of how beautiful the acoustics are. And I so want to sing something in this chapel while there's nobody around, while I'm all by myself in the corner of this, it's the golf course and hotel up at the on Peterson there. And yeah, so I'm in this chapel, and I'm trying to think of any song, just give me a song. I want to sing it. And the only song that comes to my mind is from Jesus Christ Superstar. and it's the song that Mary Magdalene sings about Jesus. Um, I don't know how to love him is the title of the song. I think it's the title of the song, and I also feel like it embodies what everybody's feeling about not knowing how to love Jesus. Um, but anyways, I started like at first I started for a while first, and then started recording after. So I actually only recorded like the last minute of the song. Um, but yeah, I'll tack it on to the end of this video in case you are curious about how that went. And but it was just such a beautiful, I don't know, like I feel like full circle moments are constantly happening because we're kind of spinning in a bit of a spiral. You know, sometimes it can seem like a circle. Actually, sometimes I think it can be a circle. We can get stuck in patterns, right? Where we're on repeat, we're in a loop. And, you know, the choices that we make, the things that we do differently, the mindsets that we create for ourselves or take ownership of, and the healing that we do puts us back into a spiral so that we're moving in a direction instead of just spinning in a circle. And that's kind of through all the work that you do, right? But anyways, I just my connection to Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene has been kind of ongoing. I had a picture of her when I was really, really young. It's kind of like a cartoon drawing, and it has this little girl. She's offering picked daisies to an altar with Mary Magdalene on it. And I still have that image tucked away in my memory trunk or whatever. And then there was also this dream that I had where um, it was more like a waking nightmare. It was in my room, in my bed, and I was thrashing around, and my dresser was pushed up against the side of my bed, and these like shadowy arms were reaching out, trying to get at me, and I was kicking my feet, trying to keep anything from coming up under, and I spoke, or I tried to speak Mother Mary, but it didn't come out right. It came out broken and unsure. And then I tried it again, and it was a little bit more audible, but still not confident, not solid. And then finally, the third time, I spoke it strong and hard, forceful, and it woke me up. And I woke up to see that my blanket was undisturbed, the dresser was where it was supposed to be, everything was as it should be, and I was just sort of enrobed in this love, right? And was able to go back to sleep peacefully, and never had an issue with my dreams like that ever since, really. But I think it was a twofold thing. It was a recognition of the power of love, the power of your voice and the words that you say. But also, I think it was Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene letting me know that she's part of my spirit team. Another indicator for me is I've always been drawn to converging bodies of water. And the more I've been looking into um, the the feminine aspect and feminine rising and Mary Magdalene, she used to be part of this order. She was a high priestess, which I think Mary represents. It's a title for a priestess, and Mother Mary is like the high priestess or the empress, um, the feminine aspect, right? The embodied, the holding the frequency of love in a receptive, allowing mode. And so yeah, just like in the patriarchic example of the masculine energy, with the father is the um, like the priest, and um, I guess John would be the name of, it'd be like father would be the emperor, and then John would be the priest. So Mother Mary and Father John, right? Emperor, priest, and empress, priestess. Anyways, it's a whole thing. Where was I going with that? There was also this, yeah, the renewal of the feminine aspect. This is why I have felt a connection with the witches and the efforts to tear down the feminine aspect through all the witch burnings that were happening, like empowered women who were speaking their truth and connected to the cycles of life and all of that stuff. And yeah, this resurgence and the role of the feminine in this rebalancing of the masculine and feminine aspects. And so I feel like Mary Magdalene and her teachings and her wisdom and her guidance are really an important thing in this time and space right now. And I'm just seeing evidence of it everywhere in my own personal life, in my own personal spiritual growth and intuitive sight. And so, yeah, I think that was kind of most of my notes there that I had. Yeah, another download that came along with Mother representing the rise of the feminine aspect, the Empress title, was this conduit of heaven and earth. Um, and then there's this image that I had of the grounding earth energy spiraling up and the um, energetic spiraling universal energy spiraling down, and the conduit, the being, the human, balanced in between, acting as like a midpoint, a conductor, a transmuter of energy and grounding. Yeah, it's kind of like trees. That's why I think I've always had this connection with trees, because I feel like that's what they're doing. Their roots right down into the earth and they're reaching up to the heavens, right? There's like this balancing of masculine and feminine energies. And I think that's why it hurts so much when they are chopped down. Like it's like murder, right? It's like, no, that beautiful living thing it's reciprocating. It's a reciprocating relationship. Like such a beautiful example, like we breathe in what they breathe out. They breathe in what we breathe out. Yeah, nature is such a beautiful example of the dichotomies of life, of living in this world. And so, yeah, so there you go. There's all the things. And I hope that they do something for you. Anyway, so I'll leave the video of the song in the chapel at the end here in case you're curious. But also, if you haven't seen the 1975 version of Jesus Christ Superstar, I recommend it. I recommend it. I recommend it. Not for anything more than an example of pure creative brilliance and beautiful collaborative channeled embodiment of talent and passion. And yeah, I haven't seen any other rendition of it because to me there is no other. That 1975 version is just beautiful. The actors, the direction, the embodiment. I mean, you just have to watch it, okay, or not, whatever. Okay, bye for now.
Yet, if he said he loved me, I'd be lost, I'd be frightened. I couldn't cope, just couldn't cope. I'd turn my head, I'd back away. I wouldn't want to know. He scares me so. I want him so. I love him so.